Hello and welcome to BlueTube, where we talk all things blue. And I know what you're wondering, what just happened? Because about a month ago, or about a month and a half ago or so, I basically kind of quit YouTube, but I did say I hope to be back someday. That day has come. I have missed this channel. I have missed talking about Chelsea. And even though I am still just as busy, if not more busy than I was before, as the years gone on, I feel like this channel is something that I'm passionate about and something that I want to do and something that I missed. So that led to me making this video and coming back to BlueTube. And before I go on, by the bus I'm in here, which is why I may be looking down here throughout this video. Basically for BlueTube, just as a quick little intro, because I want to talk about the title of the video, the question of this video, for the main body of this video. But basically what I'm going to be trying to do is try out a new system. Instead of making a match review after every single game, every single game basically, I'm going to be making one video per week. I'm going to be making one video, even if there's 1, 2, or 3 games happening in that week. I'm going to make one video in that week. And in that one video, I'm going to reflect on all the games that have happened, but also it gives me an opportunity to comment on, out and off the field incidents. Like, for instance, in that Chelsea-Tottenham game, which happened about a week ago, I think. Diego Costa with the bib incident, I could have talked about, and there's a ton of stuff happening outside the pitch that I want to talk about. And of course, this season has been riddled with stuff happening outside the pitch. Probably not for the better, but it should be fun. And the reason I'm going to this new system is because, as I said, the reason that I quit YouTube the first time, or temporarily quit YouTube for the first time, is because I didn't have time. And I feel like going down to one video per week would not only kind of condense my material, so force me to focus more on the issues, stop myself from rambling on and on, but also it'll save me time personally in making these videos and in continuing this channel and stuff like that. However, in some weeks I may still make 2 videos. For example, next week on Monday, the Champions League draw is happening. As you guys know, Chelsea beat Porto to top Group G, I think, or Group H, Group G. We topped our group. The draw is going to be happening. I'm probably going to make a reactions video to that. Who knows, maybe, maybe not. But, it's going to be one video as a foundation, and I could have an extra video coming out depending on how busy I am that week and depending on what's happening, throughout that week. But anyway, let's get straight into the video. And as you guys can see, the title reads, "Should Mourinho be sacked?" or something along those lines. And the reason that I want to talk about is because this seems to be a recurring theme in Chelsea's season. Of course, we've had a terrible start. Of course, we know that, the players know that, Mourinho himself has admitted that. And a lot of pressure is being put on Mourinho, especially before this Chelsea versus Porto game that happened a few nights ago. People were saying if Mourinho lost that, he was going to get sacked. That's how close he is, apparently, if the media is to be believed. And I wanted to just come out and give my view on this. As this is my returning video. I didn't want to talk about any specific games. I wanted my return video to be slightly different from my conventional patterns. So that's what I'm going to be talking about. But before I answer this question, I want to sort of recap what's happened at Chelsea since I left, since I quit YouTube about a month and a half ago. So it's a ghost. Oh my god. So basically, since I've stopped making videos, Chelsea have played 11 games, and I've got these all written down, which is why I'm looking down here. We've won 5 of them, we've drawn 2 of them, and we've lost 4 of them. 3 of them in the Premier League, 1 in the Capital One Cup, which it was actually a draw against Stoke 1-1, but of course we lost in penalties where Hazard missed a penalty, and that broke my heart. But that led to us being knocked out of the Capital One Cup. We are still in the FA Cup, we are still in the Champions League because we beat Porto a few nights ago. And Premier League, well, we're 14th place. You could say we're still in it. We're 17th place behind Leicester, who was first place. 17 points behind Leicester. and 14th, and we're halfway into the season. So the optimist inside me says we can still win this. We can still do this, but the reality is I think it's going to be tough for Chelsea to win this year. But I genuinely do think top 4 is a possibility. But I'll get to predictions and stuff later on in this video. But what I want to talk about is Chelsea's record. As I said, we've lost 4 games in the last 11 games that we've played since I stopped YouTube basically. And of those, 3 of them were in the Premier League. Let me put this into context. Last season, Chelsea lost 3 games in the Premier League throughout the whole season. So that just shows you how different the seasons are. That shows you where we are right now, where we were last season. And the contrast is quite striking, I have to say. It really is. And of course, the other loss came against Stoke City in the Capital One Cup. And I thought that moment was so symbolic when I was watching that. Because when I was watching that live, when Hazard missed that penalty, I just stood there, stunned at what I had just seen. And it just summarized the whole season. As I said, it was symbolic. Hazard wasn't performing. Of course, he's the one that's going to miss the penalty. Chelsea as a team were struggling. We're going to get knocked out at the early stages of the Capital One Cup against Stoke City. Of course, we could have had easier matchups than Stoke City, but still, to be fair, we were playing away, and I can make a ton of excuses, but really it's a game we should have won. And that game, I felt good about it as well, because Loic Remy, if you guys remember, scored in the 92nd minute or so in that game to take that to extra time. And I thought the momentum was with us. I thought we could genuinely win it. But we didn't. So the last 11 games haven't been the best, you could say. However, let's focus more on the last 5 games. And the last 5 games, the reason I'm focusing on them is because those 5 games were the games played after the international break. There was an international break at the end of October, I think, or maybe early November, around that time. And since then, 5 games have been played. And of those 5, the stats are a bit more encouraging. We've won 3 games, all with clean sheets, 1-0, 3-0, 1-0, 4-0, and 2-0 against Porto last night, of course. We've drawn 1, 0-0, which was still a clean sheet. And we lost 1 against Bournemouth just this Saturday, 1-0. What can you do? Another loss in the Premier League against Bournemouth, oh my god. But the thing I'm trying to say is that since the international break, we've been a lot more encouraging. We've beaten Norwich. We've beaten... what's that other team that we've beaten? Guys, I'm kind of stumped here. Maccabi. We've beaten Porto. We've drawn against Tottenham, who are a good team, and Tottenham are starting to pick up some form. So that was a big game for us. And of course, we lost against Bournemouth. But the thing is, if you guys, I'm sure you guys have watched those 5 games, but if you haven't, we have been playing so much better. I remember that Norwich game where we won 1-0. You could say we only won 1. Actually, was it 2-0? Nah, I'm pretty sure it was 1-0. But we didn't win by a huge margin. But we played well. We looked like the Chelsea of old. And so, what I've been noticing in recent games is that more and more pundits are saying this looks like the Chelsea of old, or could this be Chelsea's bounce back, from the season, stuff like that. Because we really are playing really, really, really well. We're playing really, really well. And especially a recent example against Porto. I thought, we lost against Bournemouth, our players were down, the mood was not good around the club. But did you watch that game? We played sensationally. We were all over them for the whole game. Of course, you can see the possession stats. Actually, I haven't checked the possession stats at the end of the game, but I remember around like the 60th minute, the possession was around 60-40, or like 65-35, or something like that, to Porto. But in terms of the play, in terms of what you do with the ball, we were incredible. We had incredible amounts of pressure at them, and I think a big change in Mourinho after the international break has been more offensive football. We've been the team on the front foot. If you guys have ever watched Barcelona play, they're really good at this. They always put high pressure, attacking pressure, and they always try to win the ball back in the opposition's half. They don't wait for them to come back to their half to defend. They press them in their own half. And Chelsea are starting to do that, and it's been paying off. We've played phenomenally well in the last few games. and I feel like the signs have been really, really encouraging. And I will come back to this recent form when I give at the end of the video, when I try to give predictions, some refined predictions on what I think is gonna happen to Chelsea. Of course, in the beginning of the season, I did make some predictions of my own. I might be changing some. I'll get to that at the end of the video. But now that I've talked about this, I want to talk about the question that's on everybody's mind. The question that the video is titled after. And that question is, should Mourinho be sacked? There's a short answer and a long answer to this. The short answer is absolutely no way, never in a million years. The long answer is this. I personally, as you guys can clearly see, do not want him to be sacked because I love him. I absolutely love him. He has so much significance to this club as a person, as a manager. He's had so much success with us in the past, especially in the recent past as well. He is the best manager in the world. He's incredibly heavily decorated, and I believe he's the only manager in the world that can get us out of the situation. And he's the only manager in the world that I want having a go at getting us out of the situation, right? But I do understand that people have different views. In fact, I've been talking to different people on Reddit. If you guys don't know Reddit, you guys should check it out. It's a really good forum. It's not football specific, but you can subscribe to forums specifically about Chelsea. But anyway, I've been talking to people online basically, and after the Bournemouth game, I was talking to people, and I basically said that I support Mourinho. I don't care if we lost against Bournemouth. I don't care if we lost however many games we've lost in the Premier League this season. I want Mourinho to stay. I believe he's the best manager in the world, and he's the only one that can get us out of this. But there are people with differing views, especially this one guy, I forgot his name, but he was talking about how Mourinho hasn't changed, how we're halfway into the season and we're 14th place, how we've been saying since September that things are going to change, that things are going to turn around, and nothing has happened. How Mourinho seems to be getting in more fights with Fabregas, with Diego Costa, with seeming to lose the dressing room. How Mourinho seems to be, playing players that aren't performing well, like Ivanovic or Fabregas or Diego Costa or whatever. And how Mourinho is just so stubborn that he's unwilling to change his team, that he's unwilling to bring in new players, to try out new players, to try out young players, to change the system, to try to, actually change our game. And that was his stance. And another thing that he said was that Mourinho's tactics are too defensive. How Mourinho will never, bring us to glory, because especially against the big teams, we don't come out and play. We don't come out and press them. We're not the team on the front foot. We're too reliant on counterattacks and all that stuff. And you know what? He raises a few good points. But let me talk about some of the points that he made and how I disagree with some of them. One of them, the biggest point that he made was about how Mourinho hasn't changed anything. That was his main argument. And he basically said he's so stubborn. He keeps playing Ivanovic, he keeps playing Fabregas, he keeps playing Diego Costa, he keeps playing Hazard when these players aren't performing well. And his tactics are still defensive. He hasn't learned from anything. He continues to deploy the same tactics in every game that he plays. But I disagree with that, I have to say. Firstly, Mourinho's not stubborn. I shouldn't say that. Maybe he is stubborn, I don't know. But he isn't stubborn in the way that he is portraying him to be. He says players like Ivanovic, Fabregas, Costa, Hazard, Matic, they've been playing bad. So we should try to bring in players like Loftus-Cheek. We should be trying to bring in players like Kennedy to give them an opportunity to go, and Lloyd Grenny, blah blah blah. That was his argument. But let me go through these players and talk about what I think they bring to the team and why I think Mourinho has made the right calls in the recent past. I'm talking since the international break here. Ivanovic, he's been playing great. I would say that going forward, he offers so much, but his crossing could improve. I think that's the one area of this game that could have improved in the last 5 games. But you know what? Defensively, he was solid. He looked nothing like the Ivanovic in the beginning of the season, who was so heavily criticized. And rightly so. But right now, he's playing well. I want him to start because he brings leadership to the team. He brings experience, he brings determination, and a warrior-like fight to the team that Chelsea's been missing because we don't have Drogba, we don't have Lampard, we don't have Czech anymore. And I think we need him. He's a serial champion, as Mourinho described him a few weeks ago, or a few months ago maybe, I can't even remember. Diego Costa, Diego Costa, I'm mixed about him because he can play really well if he wants to, but in fact right now he's playing decently, but there is one part of his game that annoys me to my soul. Even now, ever since the beginning of the season, every time I've watched him, this one thing about him has completely eaten me alive. And let me tell you what it is. It's that whenever he gets a one-on-one opportunity, he doesn't look to shoot. He doesn't look to score. Maybe it's a confidence thing. Maybe he thinks he can't finish. But every time he goes on a one-on-one position, he tries to look for the penalty, which puts him off from shooting. And because he's trying to look for it, he's just diving basically in the penalty box. We lose the opportunity, we don't get a penalty kick, and we don't get the goal. Whereas last season, Costa would have always taken the shot and gotten the goal. You just knew he was going to score. And I can give you an example. In that Porto game, of course, our first game did come from him shooting in the one-on-one position, and I give him credit for that. I was so happy when he took the shot because I was afraid he was going to be too scared to pull the trigger. But later on that game, he had a one-on-one opportunity where Eden Hazard, I think, put in a beautiful over-the-top through ball on the counter-attack, one-on-one, and Diego Costa, he looks to not take the shot. He kind of slows down, looks at the defender, tries to take the fall, tries to win the penalty. Just stop. Stop it. Stop it. Diego Costa could score so many more goals if he just took the shot in one-on-one situations. But other than that, I think he's been doing pretty well in the last 5 games. And of course, he hasn't started the game against Tottenham or the game against Bournemouth. And he was frustrated at that, you could say. But Mourinho seems to have resolved his differences with him. Because against Porto, he was lightning. He made so many runs behind their defense, so many very, very good runs. And I think if Fabregas was on the pitch, Diego Costa would probably have gotten a goal that game. But there's that. And just in general, in the last 5 games, he's been doing well. And when you look at his alternatives, firstly, Falcao's injured. And Loic Remy, if you ask me, do I want Loic Remy to start or do I want Diego Costa to start? I would say Diego Costa any day. Because Loic Remy, he's a good player, don't get me wrong. But I said this before, I'll say it again, he cannot lead the line. He cannot start a game because for some reason, he just gets lost in the play. You just forget that he's even playing, and he is offside so many times, it's unbelievable. He did come on for the last 10 minutes of the Porto game a few nights ago, and he did pretty well, I think. Him and Pedro, who were substitutes in that game, did pretty well. And of course, there's Mikel as well. Mikel, I didn't really see him. Mikel, I like him by the way, but those two guys, Pedro and Remy, did play quite well. But if you ask me between Remy and Costa, for me it's Costa every single day. And of course, a new option that's kind of arisen over the last few games is playing Hazard as a false 9 with Pedro, Willian, and Oscar, or Pedro, Oscar, and Willian behind Hazard. And I think that works really, really well. But the one thing about that is that we don't have anyone that stays in the box. Because if you watch the game against Tottenham, or if you watch the game against Bournemouth, where we played with a false 9, we put in some incredible crosses into the box, some very, very teasing crosses. But no one's there to finish them because Hazard, Pedro, Willian, Oscar are all around the box. Nobody has that penetration into the box, that penetration that allows us to get the goal, that allows us to convert chances, that allows us to get on the end of crosses and put them into the back of the net. I think that's why we need a striker. We need Diego Costa, and why I think Diego Costa is awesome. Cesc Fabregas. Fabregas has had an up and down season, let's just say that. Of course, compared to last season's heroics, he is nothing. That sounds really harsh. I shouldn't say that. He's actually been playing quite well recently, but if you guys think about it, this isn't something hugely new to us. His dip in form has been there since January. We just haven't really seen it last season. because the rest of the team was performing so well. But I can't remember the stats, but there's something crazy, like in the first half of last season, he made, however, like 15, 17 assists or something. And then in the last half of last season, the second half of last season, he made like 3 assists, which shows you his dip in form was already there, and that's kind of continued on to this season. He hasn't done particularly well compared to last season. In the beginning, he was atrocious. He didn't defend. He couldn't pass the ball, which is the one thing he's meant to be good at. He couldn't do anything. He didn't bring anything to the team. And, you know, I, along with a lot of Chelsea fans, showed our frustration at that. But since the international break, I think he's been good. In fact, I think he's been instrumental to how good we are. He's been instrumental to the fluidity and the offensiveness of our tactics over the last 5 games. I think if he wasn't there, it would have been very, very difficult for us. And I know what you're saying, but what about against Porto? Fabregas didn't play against Porto. Well, firstly, that shows that Mourinho isn't stubborn, because Mourinho knows that was a must not lose game, because even if we drew, we went on. So he didn't play Fabregas. So Mourinho can show tactical awareness, but also, I think Fabregas, as I said, if Fabregas was on the pitch that day, I think Diego Costa would have gotten at least a goal, maybe even 2. And he brings something special to the team. But the thing is, Fabregas can only play to his full potential when Matic is playing to his full potential. Those two are kind of synergetic. No, what's the word? Synergetic. They kind of feed off of each other, as in they're very mutualistic. If one plays well, the other plays well. If one plays poorly, the other plays poorly. And I think the reason that Fabregas has been so exploited over the early part of this season is because Matic has been terrible. He has been terrible. I'm not gonna deny it. I have been so disappointed with Matic, because last season I think he was so underrated in what he brought to the team. He brought so much. He was the glue that held the team together. He was the person, the wall between our defense and our offense that blocked any opposition counterattacks. He was a beast, a monster, an absolute savage. And this season, but there are some encouraging signs. Over the last 5 games, I'm going back to the last 5 games, because really, the last 5 games have been so encouraging for me, and have been one of the things that's kept me believing in Chelsea, believing in Mourinho. We've kept 3 clean sheets, and we've kept 4 clean sheets, 3 of which we have won. And I think a big part of that, there's 2 reasons for that. Firstly, John Terry is playing insanely well. John Terry, just watch any game that he's played in the last 5 games. He's made some incredible tackles. He's been such a great leader in terms of organizing our defense. And that just, I think it shows how much we've missed him in the early part of the season, when, you know, he was kind of playing on and off, when, you know, we didn't really play him a lot, and there were a lot of speculation about his future. That should be all gone now, because he is playing at the top of this game right now. He looks like how he played last season, putting in insane tackles, being a beastly captain, leader, and legend, which is what we need. But another reason we've kept so many clean sheets is because of Nemanja Matic. He has been very, very good. He's made great tackles. When he's played with Fabregas, he's kind of dropped back, had some more tactical positional awareness, so that we're not as vulnerable as we sometimes are, or as we sometimes were in the past when Fabregas was playing in that deep role. And Matic, especially that Porto game, I think he was probably, maybe not my man of the match, but definitely up there. Matic was incredible that game. I'm sure it's fresh in your memory as well, because it was just a few nights ago, Chelsea versus Porto. Matic was on top of everything. He did receive a yellow card, and I think that was the one tackle that was a bit unnecessary. But other than that one tackle that he missed, he was an absolute beast. He was all over the pitch for the whole game. And if he stays at that peak, if he continues his form, I think Fabregas should be able to come back into the side, and Chelsea should be a lot closer to how we were last season. And I think the reason Matic is so important, I think the 2 most important players in our team are John Terry and Matic, personally. John Terry, because he's the captain, the leader. He has so much tactical awareness. He's a great tackler, but also a great organizer of the defense. And the reason that Chelsea's defense was so good last season. But Matic has sort of a knock-on effect. Because if Matic is at the top of this game, at the top of his games, he blocks all of the defensive vulnerability that Fabregas brings into the team. Because, of course, Fabregas is a more attacking-minded player. So if Matic is at the top of this game, Fabregas can play at the top of his game. And when Fabregas plays at the top of his game, doors are unlocked offensively. Diego Costa can make runs that are spotted by such Fabregas. Eden Hazard, Willian, Oscar, Pedro can have quick one-touch passing interplay between themselves and Fabregas, because Fabregas brings a fluidity to a game. He can really fluidize the game. He can kind of Barcelona-tize Chelsea. Because you just watch Barcelona, you'll know they play incredible football. I have to say, I hate Barcelona. I despise them. I loathe them. But they play good football, you have to admit. And Fabregas kind of brings that to Chelsea. He brings that quick, fluid passing game to us. And when he's not playing, I feel like Chelsea sometimes lacks that. So what Matic does is he improves Fabregas, which in turn improves our entire offensive lineup. And that's why he's so important. And that's why we should continue to put faith in him. But hopefully he does continue at his current form, because he's playing well right now. Eden Hazard is someone who's a bit more different. Eden Hazard, Eden Hazard in the beginning of the season, he didn't play as well as he did last season, and a lot of people were ripping at him and saying he's terrible, take him off. I'm talking right at the beginning of the season, so from August and September. People were ripping at him, and I was the one saying, you know what, guys, Hazard isn't playing that bad. In my opinion, he's playing decently. That's right. And I think Hazard brings a lot to the team, and we need to play him. I was the one behind him. And I always believed in myself that Hazard would return to his peak form, and I still continue to believe that. And I think when Hazard eventually does get back to his best, when that happens, Chelsea are going to be scary. And we are going to put a big race for the top 4 and for the title, I think. But it's all a matter of time. It's all if Hazard reaches his top form next game against Leicester, or he reaches it halfway through March. It's about timing, I guess. Hopefully we get luckier. But let's talk about Hazard's performances in the last 5 games. I think he started every single game, if my memory serves me right. He's played very well comparatively. Compared to before the international break, in my opinion. He's had a lot more shots, he's had a lot more chances, created a lot more chances, but the one thing that could improve is his finishing. Guys, let me tell you this. Hazard has scored 99 career goals, 49 of them at Chelsea. The next goal he scores will be his 100th career goal. Hazard has not scored a goal this season. He has not scored a goal this season. That's absolutely insane. And the next goal he scores is gonna be his 100th. It's gonna be his 50th goal at Chelsea. It's gonna be a huge goal, but it's not coming. It's been 3 months, 4 months even, since August. And imagine how frustrating psychologically that must be for Hazard. I can't imagine what he's going through right now. But he's still putting on his boots, getting on the pitch, and playing the game he loves to play, which I admire about him. He is still playing well. Against Porto, I feel like he sort of disappeared for about 30 minutes in that game. But he started the game very well, definitely. I have to say that. The first few minutes, first 20 minutes or so, he was scary. He was lightning. He was incredible. And over the last 5 games, I think he's been a big reason why our offensive lineup has been so strong, why we've looked so much more imposing, and why we've been on the front foot. But I think I just described one of Hazard's biggest problems this season. He's not having that imposing stature for the entire 90 minutes. If he plays for 90, he does have a period in the game, and every game that he's played, where he plays sensationally, not sensationally, but maybe where he plays well, where he gets past defenders, where he plays incredible 1-2s, where he whips the ball into the box. He does have like a 30 to 40 minute period in every game. But the rest of the game, it seems like he's not there. and he goes to it every game. And maybe it's a tiredness thing. Maybe he gets tired, so he can't run as much, he can't contribute as much. Maybe it's a psychological thing, which is what I think it is. It's a confidence thing, which is kind of holding him back, which is kind of pulling him back and stopping him from reaching his top potential. I think it's a huge, huge confidence thing. And I really hope Mourinho, because he's a great manager, I hope Mourinho can get the best out of Hazard as soon as possible. And I do think Hazard needs to be played every single game, because even when Hazard's playing badly, he plays as well as most of the players in the Premier League, because that's how good of a player he is. I continue to put my faith in Hazard. So guys, I kind of went off on a tangent there actually, talking about all these players, and I'm sorry if this video is a bit long, but I do have a lot to talk about. And actually, my upcoming videos aren't going to be nearly as long, hopefully, because I'm not going to have time to edit and stuff. There's that, and we were actually talking about Mourinho and about his stubbornness, about how he's unwilling to change, but for those reasons, I think he's made the right calls in terms of his player selection. I think over the last 5 games, he's shown a huge tactical change in terms of playing defensively into playing offensively, being on the front foot, putting that high pressure on the teams that we're playing against. And I think I was talking to the guy on Reddit, as I was saying, and he said he doesn't bring in youth. He doesn't use youth as much. In the last 5 games, of course, he hasn't played, the youth as much as possible. But I think, to be honest, that's one of the reasons. I hate to say this, but that's one of the reasons why we've played so well over the last 5 games. That stability, that more seniority that we've had in our players. But I think I would completely disagree with that guy, because Mourinho has shown so much faith in youth this season. It's absolutely unreal. Players like Kennedy and Loftus-Cheek especially has had so many goals. Bertrand Traore has stepped in sometimes, and stuff like that. There's another player that I'm forgetting. You know what? I've forgotten about him. I'm forgetting. But also Kurt Zuma. Guys, you gotta remember, he's 20 years old. And to drop Gary Cahill and to play him, that's showing a lot of faith. Baba Rahman has slowly been integrated into the team. But of course, Kurt Zuma and Baba Rahman are different, I think, because they're not... They're different, basically, because they're very, very good. Unlike the other 3, which have the potential to be very, very good. But right now, they're just good, if that makes sense. Now, but Mourinho has shown so much faith, especially to Kennedy and Loftus-Cheek, those 2 in particular for me. And I think those 2 will have a bigger role to play as the season goes on. Kennedy has impressed everybody that he's that's seen him this season. And the same goes for Loftus-Cheek, because they've had opportunity to show themselves. And opportunities not only in games where we're winning 3-0, but in games where we're losing 1-0, where we're chasing a game. Mourinho has put on Kennedy, Loftus-Cheek, Bertrand Traore, which is showing an incredible amount of faith into the young players and an incredible amount of pressure onto them. But obviously Mourinho believes that they can get past that pressure, that they can get past whatever's holding them back. And Mourinho, I think he's making the right calls right now. And as I said, the last 5 games he hasn't integrated the youth as much, but I think that's been one of the reasons why we've been successful. But hopefully he does bring them in. But for me, priority goes to consistency and solidarity within our team and within our lineup. And I would prioritize that over bringing the youth in, which sounds like a horrible thing to say, because I still want the youth to come through. But we can't have that affecting our results. And a good manager knows how to integrate them in a way that allows them to flourish, in a way that allows the team to flourish. And that doesn't bring down the team's consistency or the team's ability within the game. And I think Mourinho has that, but we'll see that throughout the season. So those are some of the reasons that the guy on Reddit brought up about why Mourinho should be sacked. But obviously I disagree. And I briefly mentioned why I think that before, but it comes down to it. The reason is because we love him. He knows how to win. He is changing into more positive tactics, into more offensive tactics in the last 5 games, and that's been reflected in our results. 4 clean sheets, of course, and 3 wins within them. He is, in my opinion, still the best manager in the world. He's at least the most decorated manager in the world. Or maybe not the most decorated, because there's people like Sir Alex Ferguson, who's retired, who has more trophies than him, but his season to trophy ratio is the best in the world. No one can dispute that. Actually, you could say Pep Guardiola, but he's basically one of the best in the world. And Mourinho has shown for the last 10 years, every single season, and every club that he's managed, that he is the best. And there is no point. And even Sir Alex Ferguson has come out this week in support of Mourinho, saying, there's no point in sacking the best manager in the world. And that's coming from Sir Alex Ferguson, arguably one of the greatest managers of all time. And that's saying a lot. And you could say he's friends with Mourinho, so that could have played a role. But Sir Alex Ferguson is a guy who's very, very honest in his analysis. And if he's saying Mourinho shouldn't be sacked, that's making a big, big statement. And how good of a manager Mourinho really is. And I think if we do sack him, we're going to not only are the fans going to be demoralized, but the team, I don't think we're going to play very well. I don't see how any manager could be brought in to change the situation around better than Mourinho could. And basically, another big reason that I haven't talked about yet is the faith and the directors and Abramovich's faith in Mourinho, and to prove that the club is undergoing a change. Earlier this season, Mourinho has been handed a new 4-year contract way back in August, I think, which showed a lot of faith in him, which showed that Abramovich truly wants long-term development, because there's so many rewards that can be reaped, like youth developments, like squad development, like squad transitioning, stuff like that, and club faith and fans, passion, loyalty, that kind of thing. And I really, really was excited about that, because when he was handed that new contract, I thought, this is it. Abramovich is serious about this. And you know what? I gotta give a lot of credit to Abramovich this season, because the media put him under immense pressure to sack Mourinho, to act and do something, but he hasn't. He's been so calm, and I watched him in that Porto game, and that made me smile. When Chelsea scored that second goal, you could see Abramovich in the stands celebrating with his friends and with his wife next to him, and that was a big, big moment for me personally. That showed how he's one of the few club owners in the world that love football, that doesn't see football as a business, that sees football as a passion, which is one of the reasons I love him and I love Chelsea as a club. And you could see that in his reactions to things, and I really, really don't think that he wants to sack Mourinho. I think he doesn't want to sack Mourinho, and he's reacted well to media pressure, and I don't think he's gonna sack Mourinho personally, and I don't think he should. And I was very, very encouraged when I saw Abramovich celebrating in that Porto game. Also, speaking of that Porto game, there was something at the end of the game that really, for me, was another big moment. That Porto game for me was a big, big moment, guys. A big game, really symbolic in our season, and I think that could be our turning point in the season. I'll get to that a bit later when I talk about the future. But at the end of the game, when the game was all but won, basically, the fans, and I think this has been great of the fans over the last, however many games. Every single game, Chelsea fans have sang Mourinho's name. You all know the song, you all know it. And that song was ringing around Stamford Bridge in that game, and they all applauded Mourinho. But something that was great was that Porto fans, even though they were getting knocked out in that game, applauded Mourinho as well. And basically the whole stadium was applauding Mourinho. And it was a big, big moment, And that just shows how, much our fans love him and how much he brings to a club. Imagine you're a Porto fan, you're being knocked out by Mourinho, yet you still applaud for him because of what he's brought to you in the past, because they know that the period that they had with Mourinho was the best period in their club's history. And I think a similar thing could go for Chelsea, and I think we'll only be filled with regret if he does get sacked, which is why I hope he doesn't get sacked. And I personally don't think he will get sacked, which makes me happy, I guess. So wow, that was a long answer to the question up there. But basically, I don't think he should get sacked. I really hope he doesn't. And let's get on to talking about the upcoming games and just the future as a whole. I said I'm going to make some revised predictions at the end of the video, and this basically is going to be the end of the video where I talk about the future. And let's look at Chelsea's next few games. Chelsea are going to play Leicester City, which I'm really looking forward to. We're going to play Sunderland, Watford, and Manchester United. 4 massive games. Or maybe there's a fifth that I'm forgetting, but basically these games are the last games remaining in this year, with the Manchester United game coming at the 28th of December, I think, and then the new year begins. And I think what will really dictate Chelsea's season is the next 4 games, especially our game against Leicester and our game against Manchester United. If we win those 2 games, if we perform well in those 2 games, if we keep a clean sheet in those 2 games, I think that would completely turn the season around. And the signs have been encouraging against Porto, especially Matic seemingly back at his best. Costa making incredible runs, playing really, really well. Willian has been a beast throughout the season. Courtois, I didn't mention in this game, but he's back from injury, and he is sensational. I love him. Begovic is good, don't get me wrong, but Courtois he's so dominant, he's so assertive in everything that he does, which is what leads me to, I honestly think Courtois is a better goalkeeper than Manuel Neuer. That's my opinion. I think we have the best goalkeeper in the world, which I'm so grateful for. So Courtois has been incredible. John Terry and Kurt Zouma as well has been absolutely insane. Ivanovic is getting back to his best, and everything is coming together for this Leicester game. If we can win that, then there's no reason we can't beat Sunderland and Watford, and there's no reason that we can't beat Manchester United. And to win our next 4 games would really, really, really give us a phenomenal end to a tough season, or like a phenomenal end to a tough first half of the season. And I really hope that does happen. I believe it can happen. Do I believe it will happen? Yes. I'm saying it right here, right now. I think Chelsea is going to win the next 4 games. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm delusional, maybe I'm going to be laughing here next week, but I honestly believe that can happen, and it will happen. Have faith, Chelsea fans. And I think, let's talk about predictions, about the more long-term future. In the beginning of the season, my predictions in terms of Chelsea were that Chelsea is going to win the Premier League, and that, I can't click, by the way, I can't snap. Chelsea's going to win the Premier League, and Chelsea's going to get to the semi-finals of the Champions League. And I said in my predictions video that in the Champions League semi-final, anybody can win out of those 4. My 4 semi-finalist predictions was Chelsea, Atletico Madrid, Barcelona, and Bayern Munich. You know, a notable absence of Real Madrid there. That's just my opinion. Those 4, that was my prediction. I still believe that's going to be the semi-finals this year. Chelsea, Atletico, Barca, and Bayern. And you're probably thinking, whoa, we beat Porto, you know, we're doing well, but don't get off track here. This isn't, you know, this isn't a short-term thing. I've been thinking this throughout the whole season. We've had so many collapses, so many downs, so many pessimicism, if that's a word, surrounding our whole season. But through all that, I've constantly thought that we can still make it to the semifinals, and we will still make it to the semifinals. And I said in my old video that out of those 4, anybody can win. I did say that I think Barcelona's going to win, but really anybody can win, and there's no reason that Chelsea can't win the Champions League this season. And you know what? I don't want to say it. I don't want to jinx it. But all I will say is that there is no reason that Chelsea cannot win the Champions League this season. But I definitely think that Chelsea will get into the semi-finals this season, because Mourinho knows how to play in the Champions League. He knows how to win games. He knows how to beat teams. And I think if we dip into the transfer market this winter, and if we smartly buy players that we need, we can be an incredible side. And I will talk more about players that I want in this upcoming window. I'll make a separate video about it at the end of the year when the window opens. But that's for the future. In terms of the Premier League, the top of the Premier League seems a long, long way away. 17 points to be exact. I don't think ever in the history of the Premier League a team has overcome a 17-point deficit to win the league. Ever. We're halfway through the season and we're 14th place. Things aren't looking well. So, it hurts me to say this, but I don't think Chelsea's going to win the Premier League this season. It absolutely breaks my heart, but I have said it, it's done, it's out there. I don't think we're going to win the Premier League. I think we can win the Premier League though. I think we should still have hope in winning the Premier League, but I don't think we will win the Premier League. In terms of top 4, I think we're definitely going to make it without a question of a doubt. A question of a doubt. That's not the expression, but I think we're definitely going to make it to top 4. And there have been a lot of people saying, will Chelsea even make top 4? Is Chelsea even going to be in the Champions League next season? I think we will. I think we can. I think we have the players to do so. I think we have the manager to do so. I think we have the club financial backing in the winter transfer window to do so. And I think we will do so. So those are my predictions, my refined predictions. Not really refined. The only thing that I've changed is saying that Chelsea will not win the league, but everything else has stayed the same, which shows you how much faith I have in my club. And I think a lot of you should have faith as well. I'm not questioning your faith in Chelsea and our players, but you more and more frequently see people online or in real life who are feeling less hopeful about Chelsea, are feeling more dejected about Chelsea. And I think we have a lot of reason to be hopeful. We have a lot of reason to think that something good's gonna come out of this season. I will continue to believe so until the end of the season. It'll be really interesting to see what happens. But guys, that really wraps up the video. I'm sure this video has been very, very long. I don't know how many minutes for sure. The reason I'm looking there is because my clock is there, but I can't remember when I started filming, so this has been a long video. Thanks for sticking around. Guys, as I said, I'm back on YouTube. I'm very, very happy to be back on YouTube. I'm going to be posting videos once a week at least. As I said, next week I might post 2, who knows, we'll see. Chelsea, as a club, have had a tough start to the league, a tough start to the season, but we still have a long, long time to see where this goes, because the season is a marathon, it's not a sprint. It's a marathon, it's not a sprint. Always remember that. And the next 4 games could be absolutely instrumental to Chelsea's season. So hopefully we win, but what will happen will happen. All we can do is watch and hope. So guys, if there's one thing I want you to take away from this, stay faithful, stay hopeful, continue supporting and loving our club, our manager, our players, and I will catch you guys next week. Hopefully we've won against Leicester, but we'll only know next week. And until then, guys, stay blue.